Stellantis just announced 15 factory closures. Volkswagen is shutting down German plants for the first time in 87 years. Nissan's European sales have dropped nearly 50% in just one quarter. And as for Ford, well, they basically abandoned the passenger car market entirely. Now, this isn't a downturn. This is absolutely an extinction event. 9 car brands that you probably thought were untouchable, well, they're now on life support. Executives are quietly dumping company stock. Dealerships are closing by the hundreds. And internal documents leaked to journalists are painting a picture that's so grim, it looks like a funeral procession for Europe's automotive industry. So buckle up, because in today's video, we're diving deep into the 9 car brands that won't survive past 2026. So just before we do take a deep dive, it's imperative you hit that like button and subscribe so that you get notified the minute we produce another game-changing video that affects which car or SUV you want to purchase. And I promise you'll appreciate it. So buckle up and let's plunge straight in. So the European car market isn't just struggling, it's in absolute freefall. New car registrations are down a massive 18% compared to pre-pandemic levels. But that statistic hides the real catastrophe. Chinese automakers now control a whopping 11% of the European EV market. And that number, well, it's growing every single quarter. Manufacturing costs have skyrocketed by 40%, and at the same time, consumer demand has absolutely flatlined. The average European now keeps their car for 12 years, and that's up from 8 years just a decade ago. Why? Well, people simply can't afford new vehicles anymore. And meanwhile, the EU's 2025 emission regulations, well, they're adding enormous costs. They're forcing automakers to invest billions in EVs that, well, let's face it, Europeans aren't ready or willing to buy. So what's the result? Well, we're looking at a wave of bankruptcies, factory closures, and mergers that will permanently reshape the industry. So now let's count down the 9 brands that are running out of time, starting off with number 9, DS Automobiles. Now, that's the French brand that nobody asked for in the first place. So Stellantis launched DS to rival BMW and Mercedes, but the reality, well, it's a financial black hole. In 2024, DS sold just 41,000 cars across all of Europe. Now, to put that into perspective, BMW sells that many 3 Series units every 60 days. Each DS dealer sells an average of just 18 cars a month. And by the way, they need to sell 50 just to break even. Internal documents leaked from Stellantis show that DS actually loses €4,200 on every single car sold after they deduct the marketing and R&D costs. Now, dealers admit the brand is dead, but it's still unburied. And in fact, Stellantis executives have already hinted that DS will be folded into Citroën by mid-2026. The translation? Well, DS becomes a trim level, not a brand. Down to number 8, the Lancia. Now, the Lancia is classed as the Italian ghost. See, Lancia hasn't built a hit since the 1990s. In 2024, they sold 38,000, all of one model. And that's the aging Ypsilon, which is basically a Fiat in disguise. Now, outside of Italy, that brand doesn't even exist. Inside Italy, it barely does. Now, their latest Renaissance EV, the new Ypsilon Electric, sells just 200 units a month. Now, Mercedes sells that many A-classes every single day. Now, with 160 dealers left, and all of them piggybacking off Fiat showrooms, and Stellantis juggling 14 brands, well, the math is simple. Lancia will be gone by 2026. No market position, no customers, and no future. Down to number 7, and this is a bit of a surprise. We're talking Infiniti, the brand that never belonged. Now, Infiniti already pulled out of Europe once in 2019, but now Nissan wants to revive it with EVs. The problem? Well, the brand is very toxic here. They sold fewer than 400 cars in Europe in 2024, while burning through 50 million euros annually just to keep the lights on. Now, Nissan plans to relaunch Infiniti as an electrical premium brand in 2026, but frankly, it's delusional. They've got no dealer network, no brand loyalty, and no chance. Infiniti has already collapsed in China, and it's lost 35% of its US market. So by 2026, Infiniti will exist only in the Middle East, and maybe, just maybe, as a nameplate for badge engineered EVs that no one actually wants. Number 6, and it's a maker of pretty nice looking cars. If I say so myself, we're talking Alfa Romeo. Now here's where passion meets financial reality. So, as you know, Alfa Romeo is every car enthusiast's heartbreak. Gorgeous cars, brilliant handling, and absolutely horrible sales. In 2024, Alfa sold just 48,000 vehicles in the whole of Europe. Now, the Giulia and the Stelvio combined sold fewer cars in a year than BMW moves in 3 weeks. The new Tonale crossover was supposed to be the brand's savior, but that too is selling 1,100 units a month, and that's less than 1/10 of the Mazda CX-5. Now, Stellantis promised 30 billion euros in electrification investment, but less than 2 billion has actually been spent. Every new project is either delayed or it's cancelled. The dealer network is collapsing, and most experts believe that Alfa will be folded into Maserati or to Jeep by 2026. The brand may survive in name only, but Alfa as an independent brand, sadly, it's finished. Number 5, again, everybody's favorite, Jaguar. And that's the brand that committed corporate suicide. Now, Jaguar has decided to kill every single current model and go fully electric by 2026, starting at 100,000 euros and up. Now, it's a move that alienates 95% of their existing customers. 2024 European sales, just 31,000 units. Now, if you look at the fact they sold 78,000 just a few years ago, dealers are furious because Jaguar plans to go online only with just 50 experience centers across Europe, and that leaves hundreds of dealers bankrupt. Now, when your sister brand, Land Rover, is actively distancing itself from you, well, that's the writing on the wall. By 2026, Jaguar will either be a boutique brand selling 5,000 units a year, or it'll be dead entirely. And my guess is it will be dead entirely. Down to number 4, struggling Europe and struggling in the US. We're talking Maserati. The internal patient finally flatlines. So Maserati has been relaunching for 20 years, but this time, sadly, it's over. 2024 sales were just 8,200 units across Europe. Bentley, which charges double, sold more. The new Greek Kale SUV, built on the same platform as the Alfa Tonale, costs 75,000 euros, but it sells a tenth as well as the Porsche Macan. Depreciation is brutal. A 3-year-old Ghibli loses 70% of its value. Even their Halo MC20 supercar has dropped 30% in 1 year. Now, Stellantis has already cut 1.5 billion euros in Maserati investment. And by 2026, well, Maserati will become a design badge for special edition Jeeps or Alfas, not a true car maker. Down to number 3, Nissan, the Japanese exit. Now, the fall of Nissan in Europe is absolutely breathtaking. Sales plunged from 543,000 in 2006 to 247,000 in 2024. Factories are closing, R&D centers have been shuttered, and the company has cut European operations by as much as 75%. Now, executives quietly admit they're pulling out of Europe to focus on exports and China. Dealerships have dropped from 2,800 to just over 1,000, and by 2026, there will be 400 Nissan dealers left, mostly selling rebadged Chinese EVs. So, sadly, it's the end of the Japanese century in Europe. Honda's gone, Mitsubishi gone, and now Nissan's following them out of the door. So we're down to the last two. Number two, we've got Chrysler, and that's what we class as the Weekend at Bernie's brand. Now, technically, Chrysler still exists in Europe, but only on paper. They sold just 187 cars in 2024. That's not 1,000, that's 187 cars in total. The Pacifica minivan and the Dead 300 sedan are all that's left. Now, Stellantis plans to rebadge a Peugeot 508 as a Chrysler in Europe, and to be frank, it's laughable. See, by 2026, Chrysler won't even have a website. Now, this is a brand being kept alive purely for accounting and emissions credits. So now, one left, we're down to number one, and we're talking Stellantis itself, the giant that's way too big to survive. Now, this might shock you, but Stellantis, the company that owns half the cars or vehicles on this list, is on the verge of imploding. With 14 brands, 260,000 employees, and, wait for this, 39 billion euros in debt, well, the empire is collapsing under its own weight. Sales dropped 27% in 2024, and the stock is down nearly 50%. Now, sources inside the European Commission admit they're preparing for a controlled assembly of this company by 2026. So you can expect Peugeot, Citroën, and Opel to survive, possibly under Chinese ownership. Fiat will be absorbed. Jeep and Ram will return to US control. Everything else, absolutely gone. It's the end of an era and the death of the European car manufacturing as we know it. So to conclude, this isn't a minor correction. This is a full-blown collapse. By 2026, the European automotive landscape will be absolutely unrecognizable. Chinese brands will own a quarter of the market, millions of jobs will vanish, and the continent that invented the automobile, well, it's just watching its car industry die. So if you currently own a car from any of these brands, my advice is sell it right now while it still has value. And if you work for one, please update your resume. The collapse isn't coming, it's already here. So which of these brands do you think deserves to survive? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video, because the next automotive domino could fall a lot sooner than anyone expects. So take care, my fellow drivers, and I'll see you guys on the next one.